Grapes of Wrath poetry book by Gabby Verhoesch and Tyler Shepard, celebrating the Grapes of Wrath 75th anniversary.
We would like to dedicate this book to Mr. Reynolds for putting together this celebration, and for being one of the best English teachers at Northgate. Miss Lanahan, Mr. Reynolds' amazing student teacher. The staff and faculty at Northgate for their contributions to the school's community. And finally, all those who have struggled financially during the recent Great Recession. Know that you are not alone. The Grapes of Wrath by Larry Hossiford. The grapes of wrath are grown and swollen, bursting in the sun, overripe on and dying on the vine, long, long past the picking time. The grapes of wrath make a bitter, bitter wine. West we come to follow the sun with our family and friends, blown along like leaves on a bitter wind. They've tractored down our homes around us, broken all the ties that bound us to our farm. Now there is no farm. The grapes of wrath are grown and swollen, bursting in the sun, overripe and dying on the vine, long, long past the picking time. The grapes of wrath make a bitter, bitter wine. Thousands strong we rolled across the great Southwest. Me and mine, we suffered like the rest. Text says, Okie, if you see Arky, tell him out in California there'll be work. But there was no work. The grapes of wrath are grown and swollen, bursting in the sun, overripe and dying on the vine, long, long past the picking time. The grapes of wrath make a bitter, bitter wine. Mama, feed me, the baby pleads. She thinks it grows on trees. Sadly strange the things a child believes, sadly strange in the land of plenty. To have no milk, and to have no honey, to have no food. And there is no food. The grapes of wrath are grown and swollen, bursting in the sun, overripe and dying on the vine, long, long past the picking time. The grapes of wrath make a bitter, bitter wine. The grapes of wrath make a bitter, bitter wine. The Grapes of Wrath, Ma Joe monologue, by Unknown. I've never worried this much about my family. Before we had everything we needed, and now we are doing everything we can to survive. We are even getting help from people we've met. We left with hopes of adventure, and it turned out that we were very, very wrong. Now our pockets and stomachs are empty, and the rest of the trip is still long. When we were forced to move, we had to leave everything behind. Now without our things, we are making use of everything we can find. I feel my family is falling apart, and I try to keep us together. No one else has stepped up to the job, and I can't give up never. I feel myself growing weaker and stronger. Weaker from being tired, and as support I am stronger. I ignore my feelings to put others first. Everything I do is for them, even if it makes me feel worse. This is harder than I thought it would be, with more problems than expected. All I have left is hope that the family stays connected.
Chapter 1, The Land. Looking out onto the dry land, the people stand. Mothers with their children looking at the men who held their head high. They look on into the dying land, the land of their fathers, and their grandfathers, and their great-grandfathers, the land that was their home. And as the dust rolls over the horizon, the people still stand, looking at their land, men with hopes in their eye, and women who know they are not broken.
Chapter 2, Nameless Man. I see you see the man walking down the street, in pants too short, and shirt too big, and a brand new cap. Too tired to walk, he hops in a truck, and gets a ride from a man with curious thoughts. The two men talk, and we see one who's kind and one who's, we better not say. Life stories are shared about a life in jail, and as they part, one screams, Homicide! Chapter 3. Moving Turtle. Across the grass comes a slow-moving turtle, his large legs leaving a path of matted grass behind. With his shell dragging, he moves on, never giving up, and when he reaches an embankment, he keeps moving, never giving up. After all the trouble, a concrete plane separates him. A car passes but swerves, and the turtle keeps moving. A truck passes but hits him, and the turtle is stuck. He lays on his back, struggling to move, and yet he rolls onto his legs and crosses. He keeps moving, never giving up.
Chapter 4. Home Sweet Home. Walking on the dust-covered road is young Tom Joad, going home to his family farm. But in his way, a man in rags, sitting under a drying tree. Old Jim Casey, who ain't no preacher no more. Together they walk towards the farm to find a family of someone long gone.
Chapter 5. Money, no money. The greedy vultures we call banks suck money from everyone. But when the people can't pay, the land they were raised on is taken from their hands. Their homes destroyed by the sons of friends and neighbors. Their land ripped apart piece by piece. In seconds, everything they owned is gone. Nothing is left of what they once knew, of the land they loved, and the crops they grew. Chapter 6. Broken Home. Standing on the hill, Casey and Tom see the Joad home, pushed off its foundation, tilting at an angle, fences gone. No one was there, no ma or pa, just a lean gray cat and Muley Graves, who carried a sack in hand, wore torn blue jeans and an old black coat. He tells them that Tom's folks have gone away. They went to Uncle John's, so their 3 men camp out in a cave. And in the morning, 2 are on their way, while the 3rd stays.
Chapter 7. Sleazy Car Lot. Good cars, used cars, cheap cars, but no new cars. Get your car here. Families buy a Dodge to cross the desert, Model Ts, Buicks, Nash cars, and more, all for cheap. But what the people don't know is that they break down, and it makes it hard to cross the desert safe and sound.
Chapter 8. Stories from the Past. Remember the stories about your curious uncle. Now listen to Tom's and you may wonder why Uncle John's dismissed his wife's complaints of a stomach ache. And without a doctor she silently passed, with their child still in her grasp. Killing the 2 he feels great sorrow, to see children of tomorrow. Now listen close, for Tom must confess to his dear family why he was away. They know he killed a man, but he has no grief. He claims it was necessary, and would do it again. As we go on, the rest of the family appears, but with the same questions and the same answers. But we must move on, for it is time to leave, and say so long. Chapter 9. Packing and Moving. Look away from the cities and find the farms that are now being empty from all that's within. Families torn apart and moving west to find work and rest. Selling the trinkets that could be sold. I'll give you $5 for all this here. And the people take it and move on from there. All that's left is to California. Cars filled up with no place to start.
Chapter 10. One Final Look. Look at this here handbill. There's work to be found, but Ma Jo still worries, and Grandpa agrees that the people cannot be trusted. They shouldn't leave. But with Tom's wise words, they all agree to leave in the morning and go see. For life will be different, and they can't stay. They will even take Casey, and they all pray. Now say goodbye and take one final look at the home you once knew, and just drive.
Chapter 11. Land with no purpose. When the farmers leave their land, the lands become vacant. But men still work on the barren lands, now invaded by animals. They crumble under the dust. The land has to meaning. It is no longer a home, just a memory in the hands. Chapter 12. Highway 66. It's Highway 66, and cars are lined up, all going to California. But no one thinks that it is safe. The car may break, and people may die. Families will fight, and money will run tight. Many wish to go home, but they seek the beauty and find hope. They keep going on Highway 66.
Chapter 13. No Time to Waste. There young Al sits in the driver's seat, guiding the trunk along. He listens carefully to the engine, so no trouble might come. Ma is there sitting next to him, and she says she does not fear what is to come, but only of what is already here. As they stop to fill up the gas, the attendant wants his money, but the family just needs to rest. Soon we see that Grandpa is sick, and as he passes, we meet the Wilsons. The two families agree to go together, and they leave, headed for wherever.
Chapter 14. Unwelcome. People in the West do not understand what happened in Oklahoma. Those people seem to be damned. And soon they see a flood of people with family camping in the road. No one likes the migrant works. They fear them to the maximum extent. They wish for them to leave. It's their massive pet peeve. Chapter 15. Coffee Shop Kindness. It's a small little coffee shop on the side of the road. Route 66 passes and people come and go. On this day, a man walks in, asking to buy a loaf of bread. All they have is a dime to spend, and the waitress sells it to them. His two boys look at the candy, and the woman says it's 2 for a penny. Though this is a lie, the women felt bad, and the boys were happy.
Chapter 16. 2 days pass. The highway is their home, and plans are made. Rose of Sharon plans to live in town. Ma doesn't want the family to split, but she worries that it will happen. When the truck breaks down, Tom and Casey offer to stay. Instead, Al and Tom go get a part. Once the truck is fixed, they reach a camp, where the man tells them his story. He tells them how there is no work, and how he lost his family. He says he's on his way back to die among the people who care about him. But they think that life will be different for them.
Chapter 17. One Big Family. Thousands of people in thousands of cars go to the camps. People from all different places join other families, and each family is made up of 20 different families. In these government-run camps, people make their own rules, and the people are happy there. Chapter 18. California. West they move through New Mexico, past the pinnacles and the pyramids, into the high country of Arizona. Looking across the vast desert, the Jodes are stopped by a border guard. Questions are asked, and they are on their way. Water becomes scarce and the sun too hot. The family moves at night, with only $40 left. They try and survive and keep moving on. One day the men sat in the water, and the youngest of them all wishes to stay. Noah and Pa talk to some men who come from California. They tell their stories and then call them Okies, and Noah stays behind. But the rest keeps moving, and Grandma feels sick, until they finally reach the border. They are stopped by border control, but hurried along because of Grandma. Once they cross, they see the beautiful green plains of the valley, and Ma reveals that Grandma is dead, and she shall rest in California.
Chapter 19. The Past. Once upon a time, California belonged to Mexico. But when they were weak, it was taken from them by people who wanted money. Now the descendants of these people stand to fight against the Okies, who they try and run out. But all the Okies want are decent wages and a place to call home.
Chapter 20. Goodbye and Farewell. With no money and Grandma dead, they cannot bury, and they leave her with the coroner's office. They go to a camp that is called Hooverville, and meet a man named Floyd. When a man comes to offer them work, they question him and demand a contract, and Floyd gets in trouble. He throws a punch and runs away fast. Tom trips the cop, and Casey kicks him. Unconscious with all this commotion, Connie leaves, abandoning his wife and kid. At the end they must leave when camp is set to burn. Chapter 21. Binding Emotions. Hostility was the key to bring the people together. The people that already lived there are now terrified of the spark in their eyes. Locals are armed, deputies appointed. To run the Okies out, people are ruthless. Many cannot feed themselves, and money is gone. But the migrant works stay together.
Chapter 22. A New Start. Driving around to find a place to stay, the Jodes come across the Weed Patch Camp. It's a government-run camp that runs itself. No police or officers to be found. The camp runs smoothly, safe and sound. With appointed committees, keep it clean. Ma likes it there. The kids think there is much to see. Toilets and showers come with your spot. $1 a week, or you work it off. The men find work with no time to spare. They get meat for dinner that fills them up. Enjoying their time, the family stays in a place that makes them happy. While they work, the men hear news about a planned riot at the next dance. The men who hired them think they are kind. He warns them about what some people will do to earn a buck and get police through. Back at the camp, a woman appears and speaks to Rose of Sharon, the woman who warned her to not dance, the clutch and hug. For if she does, she shall be cursed, and her baby shall die. But the rest of the people told her the truth, and said that no such thing shall happen, and the family lived on in peace and harmony.
Chapter 23. Free Time. When the people are not working or looking for work, they make musicals and tell folk tales. If they have the money, they buy alcohol, and all just find salvation that they desperately seek. The migrant workers are all sad inside, but these small little actions can make even the saddest people act happy. Chapter 24. Trouble at the Dance. It is the night of the dance. 20 men are hired to look out for instigators and stop the riot from starting. Soon Tom sees 3 men that wish to start trouble. One tries to start a fight by dancing with another's date, but are quickly stopped and taken outside, and the dance goes on with no problem.
Chapter 25. The Grapes of Wrath. Spring is beautiful in California, but small farms are ruined by the giants who monopolize the industry. Unable to compete, small farms watch their crops wither and die, and debts start to rise. The wine in the vineyards goes bad. Resentment spreads through the land. In the souls of the people, the grapes of wrath are filling and growing heavy from the vintage.
Chapter 26. Peach Pickers. After nearly a month in the government camp, the Jodes find their supplies running low, and work to be scarce. Ma says they must leave. And the next day they say goodbye, and the family is off to find work. While they are one of the tires get flat, and the men try to fix it. A man pulls up in a suit and tie and tells them about some work. And peach pickers are 45 miles away. They say their thanks and are on their way until they see a riot, but police are there, and the Jodes keep moving. The family is learning it's 5 cents a box, but still they take the job. Later that night, Tom is curious and goes to see what the riot was about. What he finds is old Jim Casey, spreading his word. But soon they are found by a few cops, and fight breaks out. Casey is killed, and in his rage, Tom kills the man. He begins to run and hides in an embankment. He goes to tell Ma the news and is forced to hide. Tom thinks he must leave, but Ma begs him to stay. So the day he hides in a culvert until they leave. Chapter 27. Cotton Pickers. Signs appear everywhere, saying that there is work to be found. Among the cotton fields, wages are decent, but workers buy their own bags. Many people come to pick the cotton, and the owners are crooked. They rig the scales so that people have to pick more. But some are sneaky and put rocks in their bags, and the people still do the work, just to get some money.
Chapter 28. Goodbye, Tom Joad. At the cotton fields the Joads arrive, and are given a boxcar to live in. But they must share it with another family. That night they make enough money to buy food and clothing, and Ma is even able to treat Ruthie and Winfield to a box of Cracker Jacks. Another girl becomes envious and picks a fight, while Ruthie bouts angrily that her brother killed 2 men. Ma runs to Tom and tells him what happened. He knows he cannot stay, and we say goodbye to young Tom Joad. That night the 2 families sit in silence while the rain starts pouring outside.
Chapter 29. Fear turns to raid. Rain lashes the land with no work can be done. Rivers overflow and cars wash away. The men are forced to beg and steal food. The women watch the men in apprehension, worried that they might finally see them break. Instead, they see the men's fear turn to anger. Women know that their men will remain strong, as long as they can maintain their rage. Chapter 30. New Life. The rain continues to fall on the 3rd day. The skies still show no sign of clearing, but the worst has yet to come. Rose of Sharon is sick and goes into labor. The truck has flooded and the family has to remain. Pa begins to urge men to build a dam, to keep the water from flooding, washing them away. But worse is still to come, for an uprooted tree destroys the dam, and when Pa returns he is told the baby was stillborn. As the days go by, the family decides to leave and find a place to stay. They find a barn where they will see a small boy and his dying father. But as the story ends, the man is being saved by Rose of Sharon and her leftover breast milk.
A quote by Tyler Shepard. For every struggle, there are a dozen people willing to help. For every evil, there are a dozen cases of good. For every inhumanity, people come together to help. We are all a part of something much bigger than ourselves, united in love.